Okay, hi. This is Deborah Ausman, and I'm speaking with Adele Patterson of BMS Business Services Limited and John Leonard of AstraZeneca. They spoke yesterday on implementing Symyx Notebook in a GXP analytical environment at BMS and for GMP API manufacture at AstraZeneca. So I wanted to ask them to, first of all, summarize their talks for me, because they were the two people who were speaking on these subjects yesterday. So Adele, can you give me a quick?
Sure. I went through the BMS take on the GXP requirements for recording experimentation, and then took the audience through the pilot that we ran to assess the suitability of Symyx for GMP and non-GMP work. We discussed the findings of that and just explained the procedural controls that we've put in place subsequent to that.
Okay. What kind of point would you say was the main thing you'd want everybody to take away from that talk?
I think the usefulness of bringing in the individual stakeholders in. So we involved quality, we involved the users, we involved IT in order to set up the pilot itself and also to get their input on how to put the procedural controls in place.
Okay, cool. And John?
Okay, well, I talked about, gave a story really of the project to implement electronic batch recording in GMP manufacture using Symyx software. And we started off with the concept that we thought it would be more efficient to use electronic batch recording. But once we got to a certain stage, we realised there were certain barriers to implementing GMP. I think the big breakthrough that we had was when we really got our partners from QA involved, and they helped us to really come up with a way of working that actually ensured that we were compliant as well as getting the efficiency gains that we wanted by using electronic batch records.
Cool. And that's actually a good transition to the main thing you guys both seemed to be talking about yesterday, which was, where the barriers were, which groups were kind of putting up roadblocks and which weren't. So in your case, QA was really a partner in getting this to work.
Well, at first, QA kind of saw it as, they were concerned that we were doing something that might conflict with the internal compliance system. So that it was our internal compliance systems that were a barrier, really. But once we got QA on board, then we were able to discuss the pros and cons. And really, what it came down to was we showed that we could implement a better quality management system. And it was once we'd shown that QA said, okay, well, let's help to make this work, really,
this works,
rather than say, no, there are these things that stand in the way.
Right. Well, and Adele, too, I know that the main things that seem to be really energizing both of you yesterday was where those barriers are and the kinds of assumptions that are made about paper versus electronics.
Yes.
So, and I loved some of the arguments you made yesterday, so if you could summarize or just sort of...
You're absolutely right. I mean, the move from the paper paradigm to the electronic paradigm is something that everybody has to get their head around, both the users and the quality and IT informatics, the business. And it comes more natural to some people than others. And it's, for a lot of people, once you've explained the concept, you've put everything into context for them, that they get it. And that's fantastic. Some people, you need to put a little bit more evidence out for them and just show them exactly how it works.
Okay.
So once you've managed to get to that space, then generally everything works fairly smoothly.
What are some of the assumptions that maybe frustrate you the most, or what kind of arguments seem to work to get people to understand? And either of you can answer.
I have people wanting to completely reproduce their paper notebook electronically.
Yes.
And that goes back to that paradigm change.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's just getting people to understand.
I think that's the key thing, that in the compliant areas, people know they need to comply and they feel comfortable in the systems that they know work, and those are normally paper systems. And when you say, okay, we want to do this electronically, you have to actually have a different mindset. And trying to use the paper arguments in the electronic world, you get really tied up, and you have to start from scratch and say, okay, well, this is the way you'd approach this problem in the electronic world, and it actually complies with the essence of what the regulators want us to do, really.
Right. Okay. Well, wonderful. Thank you so much. And I guess the last thing is just, what do you think of the symposium so far? And were there any talks yesterday that really stood out to you as being interesting? Or what are you looking forward to today?
Well, I'm enjoying everything, really. The problem is sometimes you want to go to the the Symyx deliveries and listen to what Symyx have to offer, and other times, and sometimes you want to go to the users to see what the users have to say as well. And
Sure.
it's really important just to talk to people from other companies, and actually you find that they're in the same situation, and the decisions they're making on how to go forward are very similar.
Okay.
I really enjoyed the cloud computing presentation we had yesterday. I
Yes.
learned an awful lot from that because that was totally outside my remit. But I agree with John. I think it's been great to be able to talk to other users and to make sure that we're all, no matter how we get to our final conclusion, we all are working towards the same point, and we all seem to be making the same sort of steps, if in sort of parallel streams, to get to our end game.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.